Their opening sentence is, and I quote, "To what extent might behavioral differences between social classes and between races be genetically determined?" 11 pages later, and that's a long article in Scientific American, they conclude, and again I quote, "The question of a possible genetic basis for the race IQ difference will be almost impossible to answer satisfactorily before the environmental differences between U.S. blacks and whites have been substantially reduced. There is no good case for encouraging the support of studies of this kind on either theoretical or practical grounds." End of quote. They point out the hazards of suppression of scientific inquiry, harking all the way back to Galileo. But they also remind us that scientists already accept imposed limits, for example, on experimentation in people. We don't say, no, we have to have academic freedom to treat or use new drugs and test them on people.
So remember, we're now like 12 minutes into Suzuki's rebuttal. He hasn't refuted a single point. And now he's trying to say that we should instead accept limits on academic freedom because simply studying race is analogous to doing rat experiments on human beings. This was the argument that won in 1989. This is how intelligence studies got shut down in psychology departments. This is how IQ tests stopped being done in schools. This is how J.P. Rushton and Arthur Jensen were run out of the academy. It was because Suzuki had no good points, but they could accept this solution. Yeah, okay, we'll just get rid of academic freedom. And this was the end of the academy. This was the end of science being done by scientists. This was the end of truth and honesty in an already semi-political field, which is university academics.
Or inject viruses into people without complying with certain requirements, or even increasingly on animals, we subscribe to certain rules and regulations on that. Bodmer and Cavalli-Sforza finally conclude, and I quote, "In the present racial climate of the U.S., studies on racial differences in IQ, however well-intentioned, could easily be misinterpreted as a form of racism and lead to an unnecessary accentuation of racial tensions. Since we believe that, for the present at least, no good case can be made for such studies on either scientific or practical grounds, we do not see any point in encouraging the use of public funds for their support. There are many more useful biological problems for the scientists to attack."
That's right, the thunderous applause. Have you ever seen this in a debate? A thunderous applause for, "We should not be having this debate. In fact, it should be illegal for us to have this debate." And that's the winning line of the debate. That's literally what happened in 1989, guys. This is why your teachers told you in high school and in college that race isn't real. This is how they told you that the study of group differences, of human biodiversity, was racist. It was because of this argument that having the debate, this guy walks into a debate on are racial differences real? And his winning line is, we shouldn't be having this debate because it's a bad debate to debate because scientists shouldn't have freedom. That's literally how you got here, guys. Just want you to remember your history tonight. Carry that with you.
This is a very cautious and conservative statement, believe me, and I concur with it. Racial tensions have not been substantially changed over the past 2 decades, yet Rushton is claiming what Bodmer and Cavalli-Sforza clearly show cannot be proved. Why then does he persist? I don't know if he's a racist or what his motives are. I don't know him and I don't care. But one can only infer, on the basis of what geneticists have written, that he is either grossly ignorant or deliberately mischievous.
or scientifically correct.
Either way, what has to be done is action by scientists and academics. His claims must be denounced, his methodology discredited, his grant revoked, and his position terminated at this university. This is not science.
Well, only one of those you can't do, which is discredit the methodology. But everything else, they got away with, guys. They got away with it in 1989, and we are living in the shadow of this oppression. I don't have any, maybe that's the Jew in me. I got no bones about saying this. These are the straight up fucking oppressors. These are the bad dudes. These are the dudes we got to take down. Yes, Frame Game's getting triggered. Yeah, Frame Games is getting triggered right now, all right? It's like, it's a little after midnight. I'm sick, but I wanted to do this tonight. Because a lot of people, they don't know the history of our movement. They don't know the history of how the science developed. We just assume that the world has kind of always been this way a little bit. And, Papa Frame is just taking you through the history of your people.
This study is not just a question of basic research. The implications for society are immense. I believe that academics must be free to explore ideas that may conflict with existing social values and assumptions. But one must do so with a profound sense of responsibility and a constant scrutiny to ensure that minimum academic standards are adhered to.
Press 1 in the chat if you think he's addressed the academic standards that J.P. Rushton has put forth when it was a straight science Gatling gun for 30 minutes by Rushton, and just this pure ad hominem Molyneux, not an argument, from Suzuki. Did you guys hear that? You hear any refutation of the actual science?
Rushton's work fails on all counts, and you at the University of Washington are besmirched by it.
Missing in that entire rebuttal was the word why or because. You know, the standard things that you say when you're trying to actually rebut an argument. But again, we're going through this tonight because I don't want anybody, especially people who are new to this movement, who are new to the science, who are kind of just here because they saw some memes on Poll or because they saw some funny shit that I tweeted out one day or something like that. Guys, the science has always been on our side. It has always been, and there has never been a serious refutation. You know, there are so many times where you think, the world is against us, and there's so many of them. We're outnumbered so badly that they have to have a point, right? Somebody, somewhere, must have had some solid academic refutation of everything that we know and understand to be true from all of not just the science, but you see it with your own eyes. I mean, I've obviously done the science talk a million times. I'm not going to go back down it. I'm going to, it's after midnight here in New York, and I'm going to try to keep it at a relatively chill level, not total autism tonight. But remember, this was Suzuki, the golden boy of the scientific community in 1989. And in his rebuttal, you heard not a single scientific argument. It has never been refuted, guys. Stephen Jay Gould never refuted it. Lewontin didn't refute it. Suzuki didn't refute it. All they did was burn the witch. That's it. Nothing. Zero. Zip. Zilch. 2.
I'd like to thank Dr. Suzuki for his remarks. We now enter the rebuttal portion of the debate. Speaking first for 10 minutes will be Dr. Rushton.
Well, I'd like to say that I'm very disappointed in Dr. Suzuki. I'm very disappointed In Dr. Suzuki's presentation,
insert GSP meme. I was not very impressed with your performance.
Dr. Suzuki says that my ideas on race are too esoteric. And he shows, however, little more than moral outrage. He says that people like
Nothing
me should
more.
be rooted out. And if I heard correctly, he actually called for me to be fired. Well, that is not a scientific argument.
Damn, the original Molyneux. This was Granddad Molly. This is someone should clip. Sorry, I am a little sick, guys. Someone should clip this. I mean, this was the original, not an argument, man. But remember, he's going up against vile, evil, filthy, disgusting communists who want to mass genocide anyone who disagrees with them. So, you'll see how well being a gentleman works. This is why I say, I don't advocate fighting with honor. But here we go. OG, not an argument.
I don't know, but there's very much of substance in what he said that I can respond to. He went on about Arthur Jensen and IQ and genetics and completely ignored all the work on two-egg twinning and the 60 other variables that I mentioned, including the ranking of the three races. Why is it, I have to ask Dr. Suzuki, why is it that Oriental women double ovulate less often than Caucasian women? Why is it that Oriental children take longer to walk than Caucasian children? Why do Oriental students score higher than Caucasians on IQ tests? Why shouldn't people want to study that if they want to? There are a number of ways that members of this audience can test for themselves whether I am right or wrong, whether I am a scientist or not. First, and most easily, they can do a literature search in the library. All you have to do is go to the reference texts, such as Index Medicus, Psychological Abstracts, Science Citation Index, and so on, most of which, by the way, are now computerized, and plug in the key words such as race and sexuality, race and intelligence, race and physical maturation, and then examine the references that emerge. See whether my statements on race are or are not representative of the literature. Have I been selective? Judge for yourselves. Next, you can gather data of your own. While it certainly may be difficult to gather data using IQ tests, it is not difficult to collect informal data on social variables. For example, I have argued that Oriental populations are, on average, less sociable and more cautious than Caucasians and blacks. With a bit of ingenuity, you can probably think up ways to ask questions that measure sociability and cautiousness.